All right, everyone. So I'm very, very excited to get started, especially this month for our virtual educators meetup for Tu BiShvat in the schools. We have an absolutely amazing lineup for you tonight, and we have so many great, amazing educators on here. I'm excited to learn from you all and to connect with you all as we move through this. So just by way of introduction, my name is Daniel Friedman. I am the Director of Community Engagement here at Jewish National Fund. What that means is that I cover everything from our really K through 8 programming, as well as our synagogue engagement. And I have the absolute pleasure of working with some amazing professionals on this team. A big shout out to Zohar Vlasky, who is the man that makes everything in the world function. Without him, I don't think things would continue to spin. Zohar is our shaliach, our Israeli emissary here there in Florida. We have the amazing Stephanie Feit, Rick Abrams, Carly, and I believe Dana Klein has just joined us as well. All of them are amazing professionals in their respective regions, spread out really on the Eastern Seaboard, to be very honest. I'm apparently the only West Coast representation here. I'm very excited to kick this off. Just by way of a quick agenda for tonight's meeting, what we're going to do is we're going to start with Rabbi Shlush, who we have the absolute honor and pleasure of hosting here. He's going to be speaking about Shemitah and how it's going to impact Tu BiShvat for this upcoming year. Following that, we're going to have Rick Abrams, who is going to walk us through all of the programmatic elements of the program that he's built for you this year. It's just an absolutely amazing program. From there, we're going to share our screens and walk you through how the fundraising pages are going to work for this year, how to sign up, how to engage with them, how to change the things on the back end. And then Zohar will, assuming that there's time, which I'm sure there will be, Zohar will talk about the different options for Tu BiShvat Seders, the plethora of resources that we have available for you tonight to download, to print, to use with your programs, to use with your communities. And as always, as we go through this entire process, please don't hesitate. If you have any questions or comments, I would offer, at least for Rabbi Shlush, if you have any questions or comments, to hold them until the end of his presentation so that we can, make sure that we can get through all of the wisdom that he has to share with us. But if you have questions as we go through, feel free to drop them in the chat. And then after his presentation, we'll have time for Q&A. But for the Jewish National Fund professionals, I would say it's the same thing. Anytime, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. And then, we'll each make sure that we have time available for you all to ask questions vocally unmuted. So with that, I'd love to turn it over to the amazing Stephanie Feit to take it away.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see everybody here. Some familiar faces, some not so familiar, but nice to see you all. I'm just going to give Rabbi Shlush a brief introduction. I actually had the pleasure of meeting him when we traveled to Israel this past summer on the JNF Educators Mission. So we got to spend some time together, which was really nice. If some of you are interested in that, let us know after the call. But for now, so Rabbi Gideon Shlush is the director of the Department of Jewish Heritage at Keren Kayem Israel in Jerusalem. Working closely with rabbinic and professional leadership across Israel and around the world, his mission is to spread values of Keren Kayem and partner with like-minded institutions to strengthen the Jewish people's connection to the land of Israel. This past summer, Rabbi Shlush and his family made Aliyah. For 25 years, he served as the rabbi of the historic congregation Aderet El in Midtown Manhattan. He engaged with rabbis and communal leaders of all denominations and faith. Located in the heart of New York City, this 163-year-old synagogue is New York's oldest congregation on the same site. In April 2016, Rabbi Shlush was elected as president of the New York Board of Rabbis, an institution comprised of more than 750 members across the tri-state area, spanning all denominations. In this capacity, he met with the Pope, Secretary General at the United Nations, with members of the administration in the West Wing, and with countless diplomats and interfaith leaders. Rabbi Shlush serves in numerous leadership positions within the Jewish community. He sits on the board of directors of UJ Federation of New York. He was a judge with the Beit Din of America, and he served twice on the executive committee of the Rabbinical Council of America. For the past 18 years, he was an adjunct professor at Stern College, where he taught Bible and Jewish studies. For the past 15 years, he served as the Irving I. Stone Director of Rabbinic Internship and Training Program at Yeshiva University's Rabbi Isaac Elchanan Theological Seminary, which is also where he received his rabbinic ordination. He also holds an MBA in International Business from Baruch College. All right, Rabbi Shlush, take it away.
Wow, Stephanie, thank you so much for that warm introduction. It's such a privilege to be with you all. Speaking to you here from beautiful Israel. It's almost 2 a.m, or just about. I guess it's already past 2 a.m. I want to say that it's such a privilege to have met Stephanie and Zohar Vlasky. This past summer here in Israel. Zohar is a superstar, absolute delight to work with, does programming at the highest level, really an exemplary role model and leader. I'm going to speak, as I was asked, about Tu BiShvat and then about Shemitah, and hopefully you'll come away with some really nice ideas that you could share with others. So next month is on Monday, January 17th, we'll be celebrating the beautiful holiday of Tu BiShvat, the New Year for the trees. One of my mentors, Dr. Simcha Leibovitch, once commented to me that in many ways, it was really the Jews in the diaspora who championed this holiday. It came out of a longing for the land of Israel, a love for Eretz Yisrael. I want to tell you, in this capacity, in my position at Karen Kayem at JNF, I meet with different rabbinic leaders, and I met with Rav Shlomo Amar a number of months ago. He's the former Rishon LeZion chief rabbi of Israel. And he shared with me a magnificent story. He said that when he was growing up, he lived as a child in Morocco, and he would go to synagogue every day. And there in the synagogue, he would open the siddur or open a chumash, and papers would fall out of these prayer books, out of these Bibles. And he asked me, he said, "What do you think those little pieces of paper were?" So I had no idea. He said they were receipts. People from Morocco were making donations to JNF and before the founding of the state of Israel, and they wouldn't throw out these papers. This was a paper that came back to them from Israel, the Holy Land, after 2,000 years building a Jewish state. It meant so much to them. They wouldn't throw the papers away. They would put them inside these prayer books and have them in the synagogues. I found that to be incredibly meaningful. And when we think about Tu BiShvat, it really should make us think about our commitment to Israel, to praise Israel as the Torah praises Israel, as the Torah speaks lovingly of the land of our forefathers, to speak warmly of the land. We have a 4,000-year history there. It's a time, certainly, Tu BiShvat, to think about taking a trip to Israel if they ever open the skies, to pay tribute to people who have made Aliyah. You think half the Jews in the world are living in Israel today. So Tu BiShvat's a beautiful way to connect with Israel, to contact the JNF, arrange for trees to be planted in Israel. Not this year, we'll talk about that, or how you can do it this year. Actually, you can, but we'll speak about that a little bit later. It's customary. First of all, there's a Mishnah. What is the historical connection to Tu BiShvat to our people? So in the Mishnah, written 1,800 years ago, it says Arba Rosh Hashanahs, the first Mishnah in tractate Rosh Hashanah. It says there are 4 Rosh Hashanahs during the year, and it lists the 4. There's a famous Rosh Hashanah, and there are others. So the 4th one is Bechad BiShvat Rosh Hashanah La'ilam. The first of Shvat is the New Year for the trees. That's Beit Shammai's opinion. Beit Hillel says it's on the 15th of Shvat, and we follow the opinion of Beit Hillel. What's the idea behind it? That by this point, most of the winter rains have ended. On this day, the strength of the soil of the land is renewed. Any new growth of fruit after this day is a result of the blessings of the new year. So, of course, it's customary, as we know well, to eat fruit that come from the land of Israel on Tu BiShvat, especially to eat from the 7 species, which the Torah praises the land with these 7 species. So as educators, we should challenge our students to see if they know the names of the 7 species. And if they don't, to teach it to them. It should be on their tongue. Eretz Chitao, Seorah, Gefen, Teina, Rimon, Eretz Zeit Shemen Udvash, the land of wheat and barley and grapes and figs and pomegranates, olives, and dates. JNF has beautiful handbooks available with Tu BiShvat Seders. And I heard that you're going to be talking about that a little later, where you can discuss the attributes of each of these foods. The Arizal teaches that Arizal, we're talking 16th century, that when eating these fruits from the land of Israel, we're infusing our bodies with the holiness of Eretz Yisrael. It's also traditional to eat a new fruit, one which you haven't eaten in the past year. This enables you to say the blessing of Shechianu B'Kiyamanu B'Gianu Lazman Hazeh, a special blessing that we say when we eat a new fruit. Tu BiShvat is certainly an appropriate time to think about being more careful with saying blessings, with making brachot before we put food into our mouths, to recite the blessings slowly and with concentration. Tu BiShvat is also a great time to contemplate the source of the blessing in our lives. It's a time to see beyond the trees, to look and peek behind nature, and to acknowledge God, who is orchestrating all that goes on around us, who's providing for us, who's sustaining us. Certainly something to be thinking about on Tu BiShvat as well. Tu BiShvat also is a time to think about the future, to remember the story of Choni HaMa'agel, who saw a man planting carobs, and he asked him, "What are you planting for? And when will you be able to enjoy these fruit?" And he says, "They won't be ready for 70 years." He said, "What's the point?" He said, "My grandchildren will eat it." He said, "What's the point of that?" He said, "Just as I found trees when I came into this world, I too am planting for future generations." So again, we should be concerned with how the world will look in 70 years from now. What kind of state of Israel will we leave for our children? What kind of world will we leave for the next generation? So again, this is something we can ask our students. What are ways that we can plant for the next generation? Thinking also, it's worth mentioning that Tu BiShvat, with a huge feast, you would have 30 different kinds of food, and we have special prayers and readings from text. And so, with me, continuing, so also, of course, to talk about Shemitah. So it means that the land has to lay fallow. What does that word mean, Shemitah? Shemitah comes from the root shamot, which means to release or to let go. And during the Shemitah year, the farmers are letting go and releasing ownership of the land. So it says in the Torah, 6 years you shall sow your fields, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyards and gather its produce. But in the 7th year, there should be a Sabbath for the land. It's really remarkable. In the land of Israel for an entire year, no plowing, no planting, no sowing, no pruning, no harvesting. That's the ideal. The general rule is that those tasks which are meant to improve the plant or make it flourish, those are prohibited. So therefore you cannot fertilize or add substances that improve the plant or the soil. But it is permissible to do work that's necessary to maintain the plants, to maintain the flowers and trees and grass, not only to keep them from dying, but one is permitted to preserve their health and aesthetics. Therefore, pesticides could be used. One may irrigate to enable the vegetation to continue to look nice and green and flowering. So what are we doing at Keren Kayemet, at JNF? Many adjustments are made during the Shemitah year. So, for example, great care is taken to refrain from traditional Tu BiShvat planting ceremonies. You won't see these planting ceremonies taking place during the year. Any plantings that do take place will occur in Keren Kayemet JNF nurseries that are covered areas and that are detached from the ground. There's a key halachot, key laws relate, right? Because we can't plant during this year. So, but if it's not connected to the ground, and it's remarkable to see you go through these greenhouses that belong to JNF, Keren Kayemet, and you see how the floors are lined with plastic to prevent roots from reaching the ground, and you see how they're covered areas. During the Shemitah year, Keren Kayemet's careful not to distribute seedlings to farmers for the purpose of afforestation. In extraordinary situations, such as for purposes of security, they will allow the moving of trees and replanting of trees to take place, but those are examined on a case-by-case basis. If you have situations of security and you need to set up a barrier, God forbid terrorists should not be able to see through, to block their view. So there are situations where we're deemed necessary, and even then it's performed by non-Jews. One can easily see the many benefits of the mitzvah of Shemitah. Ideally, the Torah wants that every 7 years, the land should be hefker. That means it should be abandoned, open, free to the public. Anyone who wants can come in and enjoy and eat from the land. This reminds everyone, what's the benefit here? What's the deeper message of the Torah? So there are different explanations that are given. One can certainly argue that it's a reminder that everyone is equal, that this is God's land. It's not your land. It's not my land. That no one person is more important than the next person. It lets the rich man feel what it's like to be poor. It lets the poor man feel what it's like to be rich. So that's one understanding. You could also go according to the opinion of the Rambam. Maimonides says it gives the land, very simply, time to rest, to rejuvenate, to improve its quality and preparing for the next 6 years. The Barbanel gives another explanation, beautiful, novel idea. He says that Shemitah reminds us how quickly 7 years just shot us by. It's amazing. Someone was saying to me, just lighting the Hanukkah candles each day, can't believe, like, it was 3 days ago, I lit this many candles and suddenly I'm lighting that many. Look how the days fly by, how much more so the years of the Shemitah year. Oh my gosh, we're in a Shemitah year again? Another 7 years? The Sefer HaChinuch explains that it mirrors God's creation of the world. So, and it helps us build faith in God. So of course, God created the world in 6 days, rested on the seventh day. So too, 6 years we work the land. The seventh year, God wants the land to rest. And there's this sense of faith that we build because we're reminding ourselves that no matter how much effort we put in to cultivate the land, ultimately it's God's divine grace that makes the produce grow. After all, you see the blessings even in the seventh year, even when you didn't plant in the seventh year. And the Torah says it explicitly. You're going to ask, how am I going to sustain myself? How am I going to feed my family? And God says, you're going to see, I'm going to give blessing in the 6th year that you'll have through the 7th year as well. Now, ideally, during the Shemitah year, the fields become, as we said before, hefker, free, open to all. Anyone can come and pick the fruit and enjoy the produce in these abandoned fields. And there are many farmers in Israel that actually do this. But given that this is economically untenable, so Keren Kayemet, JNF, relies on something called a heter mechira mechanism. It's much like selling chametz before Pesach and buying it back after Passover. The land is the same idea. It's similarly sold to non-Jews prior to the Shemitah year, and then it's purchased back afterwards. And this temporary sale enables the sustenance of tens of thousands of people who are dependent on working the land. So that's one solution. And so technically the land is being worked, but it's being worked in a situation where it's not owned by Jews. Again, this is b'diavad. It's not ideal. And that's why where you have the opportunity to cover the greenhouses and make sure that the plants are not attached to the ground. So of course, Keren Kayemet, JNF is going to grab those opportunities. But again, to give the farmers ability to sustain themselves through the year, so we have that reliance as well. But there are other solutions. Some insist on importing food from abroad. So this is a solution. Others use produce that's grown hydroponically, which is remarkable to go through the research and development sites of Keren Kayemet, JNF, or to go to, you just see various farmers in Israel growing fruit and vegetables, growing vegetables in water, and it's absolutely stunning to see. Others prefer an arrangement called Otzar Beitin. That's where a rabbinic court takes control of the land. The court hires workers to harvest the produce, and then the court sells the produce. The court only charges for the labor. And the benefit is that this allows one to actually enjoy from the land while observing the commandment. It's owned by Jews. And consuming food is actually a mitzvah, consuming the food during the Shemitah year, if done technically correctly. And this is one way to go about it. But even there, the leftovers have to be disposed of carefully. So I'll just conclude that when we think about Shemitah, when we think about Tu BiShvat, one naturally thinks about conservation, about sustainability, even about personal growth. And it's interesting in Sefer Devarim, in Deuteronomy, the Torah instructs the Jewish soldier that when you go out to war, make sure not to destroy the trees. Don't destroy the fruit trees. Why? The Torah says, Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh. Man is compared to the trees of the field. And this is a powerful analogy. How is man likened to a tree? We should challenge ourselves again. Ask our students this question. Why does the Torah say that man is likened to the tree? So some beautiful explanations that are given is, and you can think about this, that just as trees grow branches and flowers and fruit. So man is put on this earth to be productive. This is why our good deeds are called our perot, our fruit, the fruit of our labor, the product of our efforts. It's so interesting. So that's one explanation. You see, the Maharal explains that man, Adam, got his name from the word Adama, from the ground. What is the connection between man and ground? So if you think about it, you look at the ground, and there are places where you see the ground flourishing, and you see beautiful vegetation, and you go to other places and you see that it's completely idle and nothing and empty and weeds. And the message, the Maharal says that man is a likened to the ground, is that just like the ground, ground essentially is potential. It's potential, and man is the same thing. What do you do with the ground? How do you make use of the ground? How can you make it flourish? Same thing. What do we do with our lives? As the Adam, are you going to be like the Adama? But what kind of Adama? What kind of land are you going to choose to be like? What kind of life are you going to choose to lead? Again, back to just wrapping up here, the analogy that man is compared to the trees. Also, there's the idea that we strive upward, but we're also deeply rooted. That's what we see with the trees. And the same thing is man. We should create for ourselves a solid foundation. The deeper the roots, the taller the tree. Same thing for ourselves, to have deep roots so that we can really grow. Also, a tree gives, but loses nothing by giving. Continues to produce fruit year after year, just like a candle. You go and light another candle, the first candle loses nothing by giving. So it's a message to man. Man, you are like the tree, and that we should learn to be giving just the same. Also, the tree offers shade, it offers care for others, and there's a beautiful message there as well, that man has the opportunity to do the same. So hopefully these are some nice ideas. If I could, I just saw a concluding story. And this is a story I saw from, you can actually hear it on YouTube. It's magnificent, from Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Zecher Tzadik Libracha, his memory should be blessed. Rabbi Sachs shared that he once vacationed with his wife in Eilat. And as they were on a glass-bottom boat in the Red Sea, the captain said to them very excitedly, "I hear your accent. Are you from England?" And Rabbi Sachs said, yes, we are from England. Why do you ask? So the captain said, well, I just returned from England. So Rabbi Sachs said, well, how did you like it? What did you think? And he said, oh, it was wonderful. The buildings are so old. The grass is so green. The people are so polite. And then the captain looked around him. And in those days, Eilat was just a desert. And the captain looked around at the bare, barren, brown hills. And an enormous smile came across his face. And he said, Aval zeh shelanu, but this is ours. Now, I just made Aliyah to Israel, as you heard, 25 years, rabbi of a congregation in Manhattan. This is a whole new world for me. And I drive through these hills and drive all over Israel now in this capacity at JNF, Karen Kayemet, and I can't stop thinking about Zeh Shelanu. So here we are, so engaged with JNF and how important it is to remember this message and to remind ourselves that there's so many beautiful, exquisite places to visit on this planet, but ultimately, Aval Zeh Shelanu, this is ours. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. I wanted to see if there were any questions. I wanted to definitely save some time for that if people wanted to ask, or by all means, welcome to put in the chat or just unmute and just chime in right here. But not everyone.
If no one's chiming in, I'll chime in.
Please.
Rabbi, I'm sorry if I missed this, but we know Shemitah is a mitzvah that's location-based, right? Like we do it in the land of Israel. So why is it that it's only the Jewish-owned properties in the land of Israel? Like if we're saying the actual land of Israel is holy, then shouldn't it be all of the land? Like why is it Jewish-owned? Why are there these workarounds?
Great question. My understanding from the Torah is that it's a command to the Jewish people, and it's a command to, this is the land that God gifted to the Jewish people, and it's a mitzvah when the Jewish people are there. It's not a mitzvah for the people that lived there in the 1400s that were not Jewish, and now the Jewish people are flourishing in the land of Israel. It was a mitzvah even for the Jews in the 1400s, the few Jews that were living there. There was always a Jewish presence in the land of Israel, but it's a mitzvah, it's a command to the Jewish people. So it's our obligation. So there are these ways to get out of it. By heter mechira, you sell it to a non-Jew. It's a mechanism, it's a gimmick. It's to enable farmers to continue to feed their families, but ultimately there's the bigger message of making the land hefker so that everyone can enjoy and benefit, and to let the land rest.
Amazing. Are there other questions? I know we had a question in the chat, and then Shoshana just jumped right in there, which I love. Are there any other questions that we have for the rabbi? Or
I'll ask a question.
Riley?
So kind of similar to what Stephanie was asking, if the Torah, the direct quote, I believe it says it should be a Sabbath for the land, how, like, if you're just selling the land but someone else is still doing the labor, you're not really giving the land rest. So how does that work?
Right, it's less than ideal. Any of these gimmicks are not the true intention of the Torah. It's to enable. We're still in a transition period where we're trying to make this state work and to enable people to live and to survive and to thrive. But the ideal situation is where we open the land and we open the fields, and everyone can come and enjoy and not work the land, not just what's there they benefit from and take, but not to work the land. That is the preference of the Torah.
I love that.
There's an idea called takana, where the chachamim, where our rabbis go and they make a tikkun, a dispensation. Sometimes it's necessary to make things work. There's something also associated with Shemitah called prusbul, where Hillel HaZaken came and said, all debts are supposed to be canceled during the Shemitah year. That's what the Torah tells us. But he saw that people are not going to lend money. So he made a takana. He made it's like a correction or a tikkun that for the time being, he felt that people will not lend money to others. So therefore, he found a way around and to allow these people to continue to lend even during the Shemitah year. So it's the same idea. And when we sell our chametz on Pesach, it's the same thing. God doesn't want us, owning chametz on Passover. So by selling chametz, it's a game, it's a gimmick. But people can't afford, to give up, or it hurts them to give up so much. So they have this way around it. There are people. I'll tell you, my grandfather. He was the chief rabbi of Netanya. He was very open about not selling his chametz. He would dump all his chametz. He would take any liquor that was left in the house and he would spill it, outside, and to let people see, I don't sell chametz. I'll sell it for you, for others, but not for myself, for my family, because I want to keep the mitzvah in the true way, not to own chametz on Pesach.
Phenomenal. All right, if there aren't any other questions, I'm going to set the rabbi free and let him get some sleep at 2:40 or 2:30 in the morning. Rabbi, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Of course, you are welcome to stick around. We're going to hear from the amazing honorary Dr. Rich Abrams, but I want to just, if you, by all means, feel free to get some sleep. We all thank you very much for your time and for your words of wisdom and sharing your knowledge with us.
My pleasure. Once again, it was a great privilege, and I'm going to check out here. All the best.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rabbi. We're now going to turn it over to Rick, our scholar in residence for the evening. Rick's going to share with us all of the different programs, the different pieces that were built out this year, the lesson plans range in different ages and different graphics. So I'm going to turn it over to Rick, who has been our absolute star in building all of this out.
And you can all see my screen, is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent. So first of all, it's really nice to be here with all of you. And I almost wish Rabbi Shalush did not leave, because you'll see that this lesson is going to include a lot of things that he actually taught about. So yeah, look, this is the graphic for this year, and it's gonna show. You'll see the different Tu BiShvat through the ages that we have celebrated and we're teaching this year. As you see, the program is geared middle to high school. If you have really smart fifth graders or fourth graders, you could try this. But the bottom line is that the program is best used in a cooperative learning style. You'll see in a second when I show you the lesson plan, the packet itself. We are providing this in the box. And again, the logo at the top. The program goes like this. We're going to talk about the holiday of Tu BiShvat from 4 different perspectives. The rabbis of the Mishnah, who have to wait till the tree can 3 years old till they can take fruit from it. The rabbis from the Kabbalah, who were the ones who the ones who created the idea of a Tu BiShvat Seder, who really thought about the meaning of the fruit and the deeper meanings that we can get from that. And by the way, I'm not saying this is the be all end all great idea, but you could explain the idea of sharing the Seder, the plate, with the fruit that has nuts on the outside, the shell on the outside, and the fruit that has the pit in the inside, and the fruit that has no pits or no shell at all, sharing a Seder plate in a way that Dr. King, whose birthday we're celebrating the day of Tu BiShvat this year, wanted to share America for everybody. And as simple as that, there's a way of tying in the multiculturalism of America with the multiculturalism of the Tu BiShvat Seder plate that was designed by the Kabbalists. It wasn't designed by the rabbis of the Talmud. We move forward to the time of the early Chalutzim. And then we move to the time of today. What do we think about Tu BiShvat? And each of these parts of the lesson, like I said, can be done cooperatively, because you can divide the class into 4, and one group studies this first page with the text from that Rabbi Shalosh talked about, the 4 Rosh Hashanahs. The next group could study the Kabbalists and look at this text from to Rabbi Natan. The next group could learn about the Chalutzim and learn about this text from David Ben Gurion. And the next group could learn about what we and what many Jews in the United States care about now when they think of Tu BiShvat, and that is greening the earth and taking care of the environment. And we have a midrash, but a point of that that we're trying to make sure that we get this idea that we count in this continuum of Tu BiShvat celebrations. Each student will get also a worksheet to fill out to be part of the program. And needless to say, with the success we had last year with the Theodore Herzl Chia Pet, this year we're doing a David Ben Gurion Chia Pet. So in the box, you'll also get parsley seeds. And if your students bring in soup cans or canned tomato cans or bean cans that are empty and cleaned, and you provide some dirt for them, we'll provide parsley seeds in the box. They color this in, they wrap it around the can, and then they can have their own Herzl Chia Pet of parsley for their Passover Seders. The poster, as you can imagine, is not being really shown really well on my screen right now, but the bottom line is it shows all 4 of those time periods: the rabbis, the Kabbalists, the Chalutzim, and the environmentalists. And you can see that this is in my opinion, a real step up from what we've done in the past. Now, if you remember that the lesson itself showed that the lesson was geared toward older than we normally skew our Tu BiShvat programs. So this year, while we have a text study for adults, and by the way, some of the texts that Rabbi Shalush mentioned. This is like for your ed committee, or this is for your board of trustees if they meet on that Monday night, or around that, and they want to acknowledge Tu BiShvat as well. Or this is for anyone who wants to study text in a deeper level. I was inspired by a text that I saw on an old Tu BiShvat JNF poster from a couple of years ago that takes this text from Job, and the way that the rabbis take that text and make it make sense for us today. But this year, as I was saying, because the lesson plan itself skews a little older, we created a text sheet for younger students that's going to give that straight Torah text of the whole idea of Eitz Chaim Hi Lemachazikim Ba, and the whole text of Bal Tashchit, like do not tear down the apple trees, and asking simple questions. Why do you think that's fair and that's not fair? For some students who want to look at the Hebrew, they can. All the texts are translated. Similarly, we have a text from the rabbinic period, and we have a text from David Ben Gurion, and again with some questions. And of course, each box includes a letter for you all to explain a little bit about this program that you've just seen pictures of now, as well as a letter that we'll send you a copy of for your families, for your parents, to let them know that ultimately we're doing this Tu BiShvat program, and you get this Tu BiShvat program from JNF USA at no cost, to use at your synagogue communities, with the ideal that your families will plant trees for Tu BiShvat using the web pages that we create for you. And this year, while you'll hear more about this from Daniel in a minute, let me just say that this year you'll hear that you're not going to necessarily just get an email from your local iPad about this the tree sale and tree sale website. But in fact our technology is up to the level now that at a certain point when the websites are all made and created, you're going to get an email from the website telling you to log on to the website and letting you know all that you can do with this website. And Daniel, if that's all right with you, I think I'm done. Oh, forgive me, I missed one last point. That is to say that while I don't have the final examples yet right now to show you, one of the highlights of our pandemic Tu BiShvat celebration that we created last year for you all were videos about all the different trees from our friend and movie actor and scholar in Israel, Mordechai Cohen. Well, he's doing more videos for us this year, talking about those 4 different time periods and talking about Tu BiShvat as a holiday for Jewish people. Thank you, Daniel.
Amazing. I think we actually do have a question. I think it's Gail. Wasn't sure if she's still here.
Her hand is up.
Gail, are you there? Maybe. Calling once. Calling twice, Gail. All right, well, the good news is we will be here for the entirety of the program. So if at any point Gail comes back, she wants to share, or he or she, they.
Shelby asked the question is, how do you get these student packets? If you're here tonight, it's possible that you registered with your iPad with your person like me or Stephanie or Dana or Carly around the country to sign up for these. If you did, you're going to get whatever you asked for, how many posters you asked for, and seeds for as many students as you need. If you didn't, by the way, al tidag, as they say, we will have extras that these iPads, my colleagues will have to be able to give something to you. And all of the materials outside of the seeds are going to be available, downloadable from a Tu BiShvat website.
Amazing. I think so. Eileen, the boxes are going to be mailed out just post the Christmas rush, so they should arrive early January, so that you will still have 2+ weeks to sit and prepare and engage with the materials. It's a great question. All right, any last questions? Of course, you can ask questions the entire way through, but I just wanted to make sure we gave an extra minute because I know Rick covered a tremendous amount of information. All of the materials will be sent out. All the materials will be available for download. If you didn't get exactly the right number, then you're able to download and print, or reshuffle some of your pieces. And as Rick had mentioned, all of our local professionals will have their own individual kits. You'll be able to reach out to them and touch base with all of them. So the final portion here, and I'm infamous for sharing the wrong screen, so I'm going to share my screen and then ask if everyone can see either the emails that I'm behind on or the Tu BiShvat registration page. Which one are we looking at?
A registration page.
Beautiful. I'd love to hear it. Okay, so this is the online component, or one of the online components for our for this year. What it is this is your opportunity. Hold on, I'm going to pull up the chat just so I can see everything. So this is the opportunity for parents, for community members, for people to plant trees in Israel digitally. We used to do this all via a paper form, and it ended up being quite labor intensive for people filling things out, stapling a check to the back, mailing it across the country, and hoping that it arrived quickly. If you signed up in the summer, you do not need to sign up again. You should be all set and ready to go. It's an amazing question, Julia. Thank you for asking. This is what the pages look like. The top is pretty standard, but we'll go on the back end in a minute, but you'll be able to start to customize these pages for yourself. You'll be able to change the text here. You can change it to the name of your school. You can change it to the name of your youth group or community member. It can be, whatever it is that you'd like to put up here at the top. You'll be able to change the name here will be for the person who individually registered. You can change the picture here, and you'll even be able to change the email address, the website address at the top. So it will be / Bethel of Oklahoma, whatever customized link that you would like to make. That way, when you send it out to parents or when you send it out to the community, you can just have one short link instead of this incredibly long one at the top. We always encourage everyone, I'm going to walk you through the registration process in just a second, but we do always encourage everyone to customize the page, to take that extra minute or 5 minutes to sit through, to put your name in, because when you send it out to community members, they always, it feels better when they're donating to the Hillel Academy as opposed to donating to just the generic page on the side. Just to walk you through what that would look like when someone goes to buy a tree. Hopefully this will work. Nope. So you'll click right here. It will open up a page. It will not because I haven't registered yet. Fantastic. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through the registration process. You will be emailed a link. Once you click on that link, it will take you to the backend registration form. That registration form will link you directly here where you input the address. I always encourage you to put the address of your school. This is an old apartment address, so I don't mind sharing it with the entire world. But put in, if you're associated with a school or a youth group or something, I always encourage people to put in their professional address here. The address here is really just to link it on the back end so that we can keep track and help you keep track of everything. The goal amount is set to $1,800, but that can be edited anywhere down. You can put in any amount that you would like, or you can go all the way up. So it doesn't really matter which amount you choose, but it's set at $1,800 just because we had to put in a regular one. So the campaign name, if you want to name your campaign, great. If you don't, you absolutely do not have to. And so what this does is it then takes you to this page. You can click on complete registration. We're going to wait 3 seconds to be redirected. And now again, this is the back end of that front end page that we were looking at earlier. And so here, the very first thing, we always encourage everyone to customize your URL. So I'm going to make this Daniel's Tu BiShvat page, and then I'm going to click create my URL. And now anytime I send someone Daniel's Tu BiShvat page, it will land. If you want, you can begin to change. You can edit your picture in the profile section. Hold on 1 second. I can't actually see a whole lot here. If you click here and you upload a photo, then it will change from just the initial sitting there to your actual piece. You can import your contacts, but obviously I feel like that's not really as necessary. And then the system itself allows you to send emails built in. So it will place your actual piece, your actual customized link in here. There is a template email if you wanted to just, plug and chug and send one out. That definitely works, but you definitely don't have to. You can just use one inside of your own piece. When you go to your page, the My Page section here, this is where it really gives you the opportunity to have a custom URL, to create a custom message. When people comment, you can comment and reply in here. On the most important page is this page. It's the dashboard page. This is where you will see how many trees have been purchased, how many people have planted trees in Israel. It will allow you to connect people if there are multiple classes or multiple youth groups within the same overarching movement that you all want to have connected to the same team. They can all do so here through the actual page. And then finally, if you ever want to change any of that info on the back end, you can always go in here and edit the goal amount, who you are, how you are engaged with this, and the whole process. And then, of course, you take this, you share the link out, you send it out to your communities. Everything will be loaded on the back end. When someone chooses to donate a tree to Israel, they will be taken to a separate page. And once they're there, they'll be able to input all the information, who they want to donate in honor of, their address, all of those pieces, and it will mail the certificate directly to them. Instead of sending it to you and you being responsible for that distribution, this will enable it just to arrive directly to them. Shoshana, you have a question or comment or concern, ambitions, dreams? I'll take anything.
All of those. So in watching you build this, does this make sense for my Sunday school, which has kindergarten through 10th grade students, to make one unit, or should my individual classroom, which has 4 to 12 students, have a page? Which is better?
It's a great question. So I feel like this is always the answer I give, is that it depends. So it depends, I think, mostly on how you want to engage, right? If you want to send it just to those 4 to 12 students and to their families, and you want to make this your classroom's goal. So our classroom is, we're going to plant 5 trees in Israel this year in honor of Tu BiShvat. Then I would encourage you just to do that. And we can generate multiple links for each one of the different grades. Sometimes schools as a whole want to feel very participatory, and the whole school, the whole Sunday school, the whole movement all wants to participate in the same campaign and be able to watch everyone else's progress. So then I would encourage you to do it as a whole. I do think there is a team functionality built in so that you can still flow up to that same piece. But either way, on the right-hand side, you'll still be able to see every person who's participated in the campaign. Even if they've made a 50-cent donation or if they planted a tree, anyway, so that everyone can still feel that level of inclusiveness. So unfortunately, I can't give you a direct answer, but I would say it mostly depends on how you'd like to use the program.
Awesome, thank you.
No, thank you. So we got a great question in the chat was, how do you get the link to start the editing? The links actually will be sent out hopefully at the end of this week, early next week. We didn't want to upload everything now and confuse everyone before we had an opportunity, at least just to show everyone what this will look like. We will send out this recording. So I don't feel like you didn't have to take a million notes. Maybe I probably should have said that in the beginning. But we will send out this recording so that you have the opportunity. Of course, we're also going to include a list of all of your local professionals. All of them are very well trained in how to help navigate these. So if you have any questions or comments, any ways for us to improve, by all means, definitely let us know. So I'm going to pause just a moment. I know we've done a lot of talking, but I wanted to just see if there were any questions. I wasn't sure if someone raised their hand. Yes. Is it Sandra?
Hi. So when you donate, it can be any amount. You're just trying to get to a goal.
So yeah, so you have the opportunity. It's a great question. You have the opportunity either to donate an amount or to plant a tree directly. The trees are still $18, or someone can donate an amount. So really, it's up to you, right? I think we've gotten a lot of feedback in the past that sometimes people were, the dollar amount felt a little. I don't want to say icky because it's such not a professional word, but the dollar amount felt a little uncomfortable, and that instead people wanted to focus more on trees. And so you can set a tree amount, and some people felt that, not every family wanted, needed to be pressured to plant an $18 tree. And then maybe if the class had a goal of planting a tree or 2 trees or whatever, then maybe that would be a little bit. So a more comfortable ask for the families. So what we've allowed is really, you can do it either way. You can either have the focus on the trees, in which case whoever wants can plant individual trees, or there's the total donation amount where, even if we're just looking for 100% participation and people just give $1, that way the whole class still feels like they're a part of the larger movement.
Thank you.
Great. No, it's a great question. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the Vatikim that are on the call, but there was a day and age that we used to collect quarters and put them into a tree to be able to buy a tree. It would be a very heavy document now, but the idea of Shmona Esrei and this idea of life, and going back to what Rabbi Shlush talked about, us being Adam and Adama, it's a great way to tie it in. And so if, like in the case with Shoshana, where she has a number of students, then what I would say is, specifically in your case, if it's 5 students, then they each give $3, which is 15, which is God, Hashem's 15, the Yud Hey, and then you put in the 3, so that there's this already, the families can add on to it, but then there's a way of taking some of these other pictures, some of these other, the idea of it being Martin Luther King and a yad b'yad type concept, this hand in hand. I think this is a great jumping off point. I mean, it's very, thank you guys. As always, JNF has given us food for thought. And in fact, I think that if there's a way, Daniel, that as we start to live it in the field, from early childhood through some of these adult trainings, would there be a way, do we just send it back to you, to Rick? How do we deal with that so that there's a way that possibly that there's a sharing of ideas? So instead of each of us reinventing the wheel, when Sandra does something, she can send it back. When my colleagues in Detroit do something, we can send it back, so that you guys go, wow, that's, it complements Rick's piece with the text study. Or this is how we used that piece. So I guess it's a question as well as a request.
I love it. Honestly, I feel like that's the Jewish world. The question and the request just like mushed together. That pretty much like sums up my childhood. My mom was always asking questions that were really requests. Also, I'm glad because she's not on the call, so I don't have to, I'm allowed to say that kind of stuff. Okay, so it's an amazing, amazing idea. Just thinking through like the easiest way to do it would be to send, if you have an idea, please share it with your local professional. And we will have one landing page. I think it's jnf.org/TBS2023 or 2022. Sorry, I have no idea what year it is post-COVID. They're all the same now. But whatever year it's going to be, and we're happy to continuously update that page and upload that page. And so continue to visit it. We'll have a tremendous amount of resources, but I think it's an amazing, amazing idea. I would hazard to say that we could put together like a WhatsApp group or a something. But honestly, I feel like we've had a little too many of those, and my phone never sleeps now because people just continuously send messages that I feel like are a little too irrelevant. But I think this might be an easy clearinghouse is to send it in. We're happy to continue to update the website and publish it. I think it's a great way to share our ideas. Thank you for that question request. There's a good merger of those words. It is my absolute honor and pleasure to turn it over to Zohar Vlasky, whose resume is so long that if I read it, we would run out of time because he is such an accomplished educator. But Zohar is going to spend some time walking through the different opportunities that we have for our Tu BiShvat Seders. But thank you also so much for your ideas, for helping us with all of these pieces.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I jump immediately to the water, and we'll just give you two different opportunities for Tu BiShvat, for a lot of opportunities that we have, and we will send you by the follow-up email, so you can see, and you can receive also this presentation. I will share now. Let me for 1 second. You see it in full, yes? Now, yes, you see it. Someone will say yes. No,
we see it, but it's the side by side. But I think now it's good.
Okay.
There you go.
So you have here some slide and with all the links include, like the rabbi spoke about the Shemitah, the sabbatical year. So you have here materials in English and in Hebrew. Shemitah, the what and why, and also you will receive here a lot of other materials that we have for you. I wanted to jump, if you see, we have a Shemitah, we have about Tu BiShvat, we have a Seder Tu BiShvat, and we have also songs, etc. So let me just give you a small taste with Seder Tu BiShvat and some songs. I will share again my screen. This is a Seder Tu BiShvat ready for you to use. You have here the play, and you can go by the slides, you have separate a PDF outline for the teacher, so you can see slide by slide exactly what we have here. So you can give your students to take opportunity to participate. And every time and every slide, you have something different. For example, planting is growth and blossoming and happiness and beauty and a new beginning and life and owning the land, as the rabbi said, ze shalanu. If you want to jump to any song, you have at the bottom a song, or you have here a planting story, so you can always run by the presentation or jump immediately to the slide that you want. For example, here you have the planter prayers that Rabbi Uziel, Ben Zion Uziel, one of the chief rabbi of Israel, just made almost 100 years ago, almost. So if you run also the other slide, or you can return back, so you can return always to Kach Holchim HaShotlim, for example. Etc., etc., and you can return back, or you can see a short watch and showcase the short movie about the trees and about the forest in Israel. Let's taste the 10.
The green forests we have become so used to seeing everywhere in Israel have not always been here. Most of the forests we like to picnic in on weekends and holidays are actually forests planted by man. 100 years ago, there were hardly any trees here at all. Since then, Keren Kayemet L'Israel, the Jewish National Fund, has planted over 240 million trees. Before becoming part of a forest, these saplings were grown in the central nurseries of KKLJNF by a process that is a result of expertise and years of accumulated experience.
And this is especially for this year that planting nursery. And you have here the first cup and the second cup to dedicate with the almond tree or dates, Shivat Aminim, etc., etc. So this is an option, one of hundreds of tools, educational tools that we have for you in English, in Hebrew, in Spanish, in French, in Russian, and maybe I forget another language. So you have here another tool that I want to show, to share with you, and this is only a taste, again, from hundreds of tools that we have for you. 1 second. Let me see how I can make it. You see the Tu BiShvat songbooks? Anyone just give me a hint? Yes? Okay, so you have here different 12 songs, not only for Tu BiShvat, but especially for Tu BiShvat, so you can find any song that you love. What is so important here, that you can find every song in Hebrew, in English, and in Hebrew. So nobody left behind, and everyone will find him, herself, and be a part of the party, of Tu BiShvat party. Let's take, for example, Eretz Chalav Udvash, land of milk and honey.
Eretz Zavat Chalav, Chalav Udvash, Eretz Zavat Chalav, Chalav Udvash, Eretz Zavat Chalav, Chalav Udvash, Eretz Zavat Chalav, Chalav Udvash.
So you have here a lot of opportunities for you. And again, you will receive the presentation that I just showed you. Okay, and you the links. Okay, and you can find by the links all the materials that you are looking for. Any question? Any request? Any comments? Okay, so Daniel, back to you.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm actually not going to do a long closing. We are 4 minutes over, and I just want to be incredibly respectful of everybody's time. So this is where we are going to leave it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. As we said, everything will be sent out via email. The recording of tonight's call will be sent out. The upcoming Tu BiShvat website will be sent out. Following that, the actual materials themselves will be sent out, both in a physical spot and on a digital platform, so that if you're missing anything, you'd like to print extras or do something like that, you are absolutely welcome to do so. And we will include in that email the list of all of your local professionals, so that should you have any questions, want to connect with someone that isn't just an automated email, you can absolutely do so. So thank you all so much. We are so excited to be back in person and to be doing Tu BiShvat, not digitally this time, but thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.